And welcome back, everyone, to GSA. We're going to have a round of our Super Metroid Any Percent tournament for you today. But real quick, shout outs to our sponsor, Vi.gg, exclamation point bet in that chat to go ahead and check them out. Great, thanks for sponsoring us. So we've got Oats and Goats versus Robitalion today. Both these guys, you know them, you'll love them. Both going to be running on the new route for you. And so, should be a pretty exciting matchup. Both players at that start screen, ready to rock and roll at any second now, just waiting for that countdown behind the scenes. We got both our guys giving that ready in the backroom chat. Countdown starting. We should be seeing them start up any moment now. Now, if you've seen a Super Metroid run before, you do know the beginning of the run, tad slow, having to go through Ceres Station, but part of the run, of course, having to go all the way down to Ridley, stealing that Metroid in the capsule. We see both our guys off now. See how they handle this fall real quick. Can be a little bit tricky getting through those cascading platforms. Remember this room here, if you've never seen a run before, that's basically the only RNG big time loss that you can have in Ceres Station. Now, if you're just getting into these runs, you may see them pumping their arms up and down while running across straight surfaces. That's actually because, for whatever reason, Samus will move forward about a pixel every time you change the direction that the blaster is facing. So we see Ridley coming in here now. Rather than firing 100 shots into him, they purposely get hit by that tail to go ahead and damage down to make Ridley leave the room early. Now for the actual escape, let's see which one of them can go ahead and get through this faster, since we do have an in-game timer to see here. Looks like Robitalion with just a couple little flubs on those staircases. Now we see the tiles treating Oats and Goats really well, not getting hit by a single one, and Robitalion as well, looks like. So both our guys leaving Ceres, about to be landing in Criteria, and they're going to be moving on into the real meat of the run. Now, both these guys running on the new route, so you're going to see them going a bit of a detour from what you would see in a normal kind of traditional playthrough. You will see them going down into Brinster to go ahead and get a couple of those required items like the Morph Ball and bombs, but whereas most people would go ahead and keep going down into Kraid's lair, they're actually going to be using some trickery to go into the wrecked ship early. We can hear that familiar theme as both players landing down in Criteria, ready to rock and roll. Looks like Oats actually attempting to go for one of those moonfalls, but unfortunately not quite able to get it. So Robitalion able to catch a bit of a lead. Both of them going for the moonfall in this room and getting it successfully. Moonfalls allow you to remove the cap that's normally present on Samus's fall speed. Oats and Goats having a little bit of trouble with these platforms. So Robitalion with a snazzy couple of second lead going down into the Morph Ball area. For those fans of NES Metroid, this area will probably look pretty familiar to you. One of the basically starting areas there. So now they'll be grabbing their missiles, So all that's pretty well left for them in Brinster is to go ahead and grab the super missile early, bombs, and maybe one or two more miscellaneous items that they'll need to run. Also the charge beam, I believe. And the elevator design has always kind of picked my eye in this game. It's interesting to see how they kind of compensated for not having a whole lot of pixel room to do a lot of artistic stuff. So if you noticed, it's just kind of one little line of textures just repeated infinitely, but it looks pretty smooth. Both of them on this climb right now, going through the Space Pirates. Looks like neither of them opting for the Behemoth climb, going on those platforms towards the right side. Can't blame them though. Can be a bit risky if you fail part of it. So now they'll be moving in for bombs. Here you can really see that arm pumping action. Of course, knowing that they've got a missile down this door, firing some of those missiles off early, and now they're going into the bomb chorizo fight. So you will notice them saving some missiles for the end of this fight. Normally, the chorizo gets decapitated whenever he gets down below 100 health, but these players are going to attempt to actually prevent that by specifically damaging him a lot right before he gets down to 100. That way he goes straight into that death animation. You see Robitalion with that cheeky little bomb jumping there. If you've never tried bomb jumping yourself at home, it can be kind of a hard little trick to learn. So now they'll be moving into super missile early, after which we're going to quickly see them heading up into the wrecked ship, home of everybody's favorite boss in this game, the one, the only Phantoon. And here they grab one of the requisite 3 E-Tanks. If you don't know why the E-Tanks are required, just wait till the Mother Brain fight. You'll see exactly why towards the end of that. And both players opting to go ahead and take out these Space Pirates. Unfortunately, each of them requires a missile to kill, and you can use iframes to get through them by taking a little bit of damage, but it's a little bit faster to go ahead and get the kills if you're able to do them all. And so now they're heading down into True Brinster. So here's the room where the mock ball is super important. They're going to be trying to get across this platform without speed booster. Normally, these walls would close in on you before you're actually able to get the speed booster, but in this case, both of them handily getting that mock ball, able to get through way before they grab the speed booster and grabbing that super missile, which kind of opens the door to a lot of different sequence breaks. So we see both players heading into Red Brinster at the moment. Of course, that dreaded bombing wall, you gotta put, I believe, 5 bombs into it, just one after the other. It's a lot of waiting, kind of a bit of a slow portion, but we're gonna see them now going ahead and grabbing the charge beam and moving into probably the first sequence break. Normally, this door down here, you're supposed to open a way later after getting the quote-unquote true super missile. There's a mini boss fight beforehand, and it's pretty slow, but in this case, since they've got super missile early, they're able to just go right through after grabbing this charge beam. And a charge beam is going to be necessary for X Factor later on, as well as just for Mother Brain, especially, so you don't have to have all the insane number of missiles the game normally requires. Ooh, Oatsngoats with that nice damage boosting there. Both are guys still pretty well neck and neck at the moment. So now we see them going up into the red climb. Normally, you're expected to have the high jump boots to be able to start up this red climb and the ice beam to be able to freeze those guys in order to travel up them as platforms, but With wall jumping, none of that's required. We see them actually completely synced up. Oats and Goats taking a little bit of what looked like unintentional damage in that room. And so here we're going to be seeing them go for power bombs, which are, of course, one of the final big required items in this game for any percent. And now pretty much any door that would be standing in their way in normal gameplay, your power missile doors, super missile doors, power bomb doors, none of them are going to stand a chance. So we're going to see them going up into what really defines this route. So right now, they're in standard casual gameplay, when you get to that red climb, you'd actually go down instead of up to go ahead and go into Norfair, which you dip into a fair number of times. But taking separate trips isn't exactly conducive to speed. So these guys are going to be leaving before they ever touch Norfair and go ahead and go into the wreck ship to clear out Phantoon early, which will allow them later on to only take one trip down to Norfair for a few required items and that relief. And we see robitalion using the bomb jump method to go ahead and get across that chasm. Let's see what Oats has in store for us. Looks like he's going to be attempting that continuous wall jump, getting the first half of it nicely, and able to continue all the way through, not needing power bombs at all. Taking a little bit of extra time over robitalion, but ultimately not the worst thing in the world. A few seconds behind, yes, but depending on how Phantoon decides to treat these guys, could be a lot. And Oat's actually getting trolled by that kind of Phantoon ghost thing there. Not exactly sure what those enemies are really called. But meanwhile, robitalion entering his own Phantoon fight. There's the big squiddy guy himself. Let's see what patterns he has in store for robitalion at the moment. Meanwhile, Oats and Goats entering the same fight, having to deal with that intro cutscene. Looks like it's treating robitalion pretty well. Not really what Oats was hoping for sure. But Oats also getting a decent pattern of his own. Looks like Phantoon may not actually decide the outcome of this race like we've seen in some past races. robitalion in his last couple of hits on Phantoon, but Phantoon opting to give him a bit slower of a pattern than normal. Commentator's Curse in full effect today, folks. May have spoken a tad too soon as Oats and Goats went ahead and killed Phantoon, is clearing out of there while robitalion still has one or two more missile hits left. Not what you want to see in the middle of a race like this. Yeah, we see Oats and Goats departing the room while robitalion still having to wait on that death animation, that little squiggly red line that really tells you that Phantoon is dead. And seeing in chat now, Random Effect asking about keeping health up for the Phantoon fight. Yes, in the PRKD route, you definitely want to have a bit more health than you normally would going into Phantoon, especially with all the RNG during that boss fight. It's a terrible place to take a death. Really any place in this game due to the lack of saves throughout this run, but Phantoon especially, with the unpredictability of that boss, it's really difficult to justify going into it with any lower health than you need. Oats with that smooth clip there, trying to increase his lead over robitalion as much as he possibly can. And a nice super bomb to take care of those enemies in the center of the room. This room's doors will not unlock unless you've killed every enemy inside of it, specifically those flying space pirates and the standard space pirates. So nice that we have super bombs to be able to clear the room out pretty early. So Oats now going to be heading down to his one and only trip through Norfair. This is really what the new route saves a lot of time on. Going to be taking a quick detour, though, to go ahead and get an item from the Bomb Chorizo bowling area. Everyone loves this cutscene, I'm sure. Through this, though, they'll be getting the grab suit. which gives them the ability to walk and jump and all of the other great movement, full speed underwater, which is super duper handy and like completely required for Meridia. Trying to do Meridia without it is just a nightmare and basically impossible. And of course, the chorizo having to take that, long little stridey walk down underneath those spikes. We see Oats already downstairs before robitalion even creeps below the floor. But that chorizo still has, to take a second to say goodbye to Samus. Hasn't had a visitor in such a long time. And of course, now we see Samus going straight from that nice yellow suit we all know and love right into purple. Now, these guys will still be collecting the Varia suit, I believe, right after Kraid. Because for some reason, getting the gravity suit does not automatically transfer the properties of the Varia suit. But the route that they're taking through Norfair means that this doesn't really matter as far as the heat goes. That's really the advantage of the Varia suit is it allows you to go through hot areas without taking damage. But due to the route through Norfair, that's not anywhere near as important as it would be in a casual run. Robitalion having a little bit of trouble with that fall, looks like. But both of them seem to be getting right down back into the red climb, or in this case, the red decline. Let me see them ha-has in the chat. So now after falling through all of this, Gravity Suit's going to make this room a lot easier for them that Oats is entering into, as well as the other room that Oats goes ahead and takes a little bit of a detour in to go ahead and grab the Wave Beam. Or, sorry, the Spazer. Beams are a little bit easy to confuse at times, but the Spazer is going to split the one beam that they're currently firing into 3, which allows for some pretty high damage on a lot of bosses in that. And a much smaller time save here, but a bit of a time save nonetheless. By doing the PRKD route, you're able to just go through this glass tunnel once and break it open during that first pass. In the old route, you actually have to pass through, I believe, twice before you're able to actually break it. And so now they're right in the middle of Norfair, going ahead and grabbing their second energy tank. They just got one more to grab before going into the Mother Brain fight Orion. So in a great position. And of course, like many of the different sub areas, another little goodie hidden. That's right, the high jump boots. So these boots, interestingly enough, a lot of people don't realize, but they actually deduct from the horizontal momentum that you have on jumps. So there are a couple of jumps in this game that you can't actually do without not having the high jump boots. Commentator with that strange grammatical structure, but it's a-okay. At least he's not putting his insane Mario theories out there today. Oh no. And so they're actually going kind of the back way here for their next item. Normally this is supposed to be the exit that they're going through, but instead they're using the outdoor as the indoor to grab their Ice Beam. So Ice Beam is really important throughout Norfair because a lot of the puzzles expect you to freeze enemies, and especially these like fire-breathing guys right here in casual gameplay. You can use the Ice Beam to just instantly freeze them. Don't have to worry about them whatsoever. As you can see, Oatsngoats opting to freeze those platforms to go ahead and make his way back through the original room a bit easier. And so they're going to be moving in very quickly to that Ridley fight down in Norfair. Normally, you visit Norfair probably 4 or 5 times in the casual run through, just dipping a little bit further into it each time. You know, when you first go into it, you don't have the grappling hook, so there's some things that you can't do. Another time that you go down into it, you don't actually have the Varia suit in. I believe the very first time you don't have the Varia suit normally, but you do still have to grab an item. But with the route that these guys are taking, just one and done, we can see here the advantage of wall jumping that Oatsngoats is demonstrating, but losing a little bit of time, that Bat deciding to kind of troll him, giving a robitalion a little bit less of that huge disadvantage he started with. And so they're now going to be getting what's arguably the most useful item in the game for speedrunning. If this room's layout is any indication, you may guess what that item is. That's right, it's the speed booster. So the speed booster simply means that once you're at your normal top speed with Samus, Samus is able to run a bit faster, develop this blue glow, and this also opens up another technique known as shine sparking, where you're able to store a super high jump whenever you glow blue like that. And as long as you don't have to leave the ground for any reason after storing it, you can use it anyway. And Oats opting to take a little bit of a refill off of that platform there. It's actually a multi-enemy being that spawns right there. It looks kind of like just one enemy, but if you wait for the full spawn to take place, you'll actually see that it's multiple. And so you had another big sequence break. This fall that Robitalion's in the middle of, or just finished rather, you're actually supposed to go in this room from bottom up, but due to the specific route these guys take, that's nothing but a thing. And Oats demonstrating yet again the power of wall jumps, not needing the grapple hook for anything whatsoever, going ahead and grabbing that wave beam. So it's pretty well all the beams that you're going to need throughout this run. The wave beam just forces your beam to split into a triad that the spacer splits it into 3, but the wave beam makes the outer 2 act like a sine wave. So if you see any longer distance shots, you'll see that the beam will kind of converge on itself and then diverge yet again, and just repeat that infinitely. Another huge advantage of the wave beam, though, is the ability to use X Factor, which causes a lot of damage to anything that you apply it to. A lot of the bosses in this game really need to go ahead and invest in flex tape, because after they've got the wave beam here, there's really no coming back. There's not much hope for any of these bosses. And so we now see Oats with a beautiful damage boost, followed by a Shine Spark. That's the first one we've seen so far, going into Ridley. Now, Robitalion, we can see actually preparing for his own X Factor by disabling those beams. Oatsngoats not opting to do that, saving him some time, but we'll see if that time extends through the actual fight here with Ridley. Ridley, another huge source of RNG. If he decides to just become a pogo stick, then not a whole lot of recourse you have there. Oh, it's going ahead and building up speed for that Shine Spark here to get all the way across this room seamlessly. And then planning that nice super bomb to go ahead and just kill everything at once. Not having to worry about anything on this climb up to the big guy himself. Getting real close now. And so this big room here, I believe it's affectionately called the Amphitheater. Kind of your last stop before ending up making your way all the way through. Looks like Oats having... Not sure if that Shine Spark there was intentional. I don't believe it was. Nice dodging the cactus legs, and then of course those beautiful damage boosts. We don't have time here to wait for those falling platforms. Oh no. And damage boosting, the way that it functions in this game, ooh, Oats having a bit of an issue with the Space Pirates here, but able to go ahead and make it work with a couple of Shine Sparks. May not have been intentional, or sorry, may have been intentional. Commentator's still fairly new to this game, so apologies if fully intentional. Let's see what robitalion ends up using as a strat for this room. Yep, so about the same. Okay, so Commentator definitely in the wrong here regarding that move not being fully intentional. The beams can't actually do the appropriate amount of damage as quickly as two Shine Sparks can in this room. And so now we see Oats going into the actual Ridley fight. So a source of major RNG here. If, like I said, if Wrigley decides to do some pogo stick cosplay, it can waste a substantial amount of time. And this fight also requires a lot of just general pattern memorization, but also knowledge of how exactly Ridley moves. Because you're going to see him go off screen numerous times, and we see that pogo attack happening a couple of times there. Unfortunately, Ridley leaving himself fairly vulnerable, opting for that more circular motion pattern. So an in-depth knowledge of his patterns allows you to really do some major damage, even whenever he's going off screen. His hitbox is still present despite him being off screen for some distance. So you're able to still fire at him if you know about where he's going to go based on the pattern that you think he's about to go into. So robitalion re-equipping the Ice and Spazer to finish off Ridley a bit more handily. If someone in chat could refresh my memory on why exactly he disabled those before, that'd be really awesome. Not exactly sure. I believe it was for the X Factor, but could be wrong on that. Oats with a nice finish to his Ridley fight. Let's see what robitalion can do to match that. So now Oats going ahead and disabling the Ice and Spazer. Wants just wave beam power for the end of this room. It looks like robitalion may have been a bit presumptuous in disabling his Ice and Spazer since he's having to redo it. Ooh, beautiful wall jumps up there. And of course, the nice damage boosting. The way the damage knockback works in this game is when you get damaged by an enemy, the game will automatically knock you in the direction opposite of what your current control pad inputs are in. So with that in mind, by holding the control pad in, say, like a specifically downwards direction unintuitively, when you take damage, you'll actually be forced upwards. So these guys, every time you see them doing a damage boost, they're holding the D-pad in the exact opposite way of the way that they want to move, and taking damage forces them in that opposite direction. So kind of neat little methodology there. Kind of gives you a little bit of insight to how exactly these games were programmed back then. You know, they depended on the player to kind of give them exactly what they needed to be able to accomplish things like damage knock. And figuring that if you ran into an enemy, you were holding the D-pad in the direction of it, they were able to just say, you know what, let's just knock them in the opposite way. So nice climbs out from both of our guys. Very nearly exiting from north at the moment. Gonna be heading next into Brinstar for their Kraid's Lair entry. So definitely a bit belated according to the standard casual route. And if you've ever had any trouble with Kraid casually, you're about to have just the time of your life. You're about to see something just absolutely cool. Oats getting pretty close to that elevator. robitalion seemed to have lost a little bit of time to one of those earlier climbs. And that segment right there with the speed booster, ooh, very nice jump there. Clear through that save room as quickly as possible. You see that segment from the other side, and it's actually, I believe, your first introduction casually to those health sapping enemies. I unfortunately have to admit I did take a death there casually just because I didn't know exactly how to react. All you have to do is shoot upwards and they'll immediately fall off of Samus, but of course at the time didn't know that. So Oats now heading into Kraid's Lair. robitalion with his personal elevator ride. Ah, I see. Chat clarifying that those shine sparks were for lag reduction. Thanks for that. And of course, you do get to farm some extra stuff out of those two shine sparks. So Oats entering the Kraid fight now Going ahead and morphing, because Kraid normally will introduce some lag frames whenever he comes up out of the ground. Those trademark sirens and all. And in case it's been a while since your casual playthrough, normally Kraid is supposed to rise up really high, and you're going to have to jump on these platforms to be able to reach his mouth to shoot him down, but that's a little bit too slow for speedrunners. So they're going to go ahead and grab their various suit right after. Let's see if robitalion can also execute that Kraid kick kill. I mean, it saves a lot of time, because in normal fight circumstances, you have to repeatedly shoot him to go ahead and aggro him into opening his mouth. And then proceed to actually fire the missiles in. And of course, if you run out of missiles, you just have to wait more to spawn. Now, another thing is that mini Kraid there that Oats just killed is guaranteed to spawn a super missile. So you always want to kill him heading out to go ahead and help replenish your super missile. So they're going to be moving on now into everybody's favorite, the water level that obligatory to any game ever made by Nintendo, Meridia. So once you complete the wrecked ship, you're able to get to this through criteria, but as you very, very quickly realize, you're not actually meant to make very much progress that way. And so you eventually have to figure out that you can break that glass tube and make your way into Meridia this way. But these guys making ultra short work of it, actually entering through what's kind of one of the ways that you fall out if you do one of the later rooms kind of incorrectly. On chat clarifying yet again, disabling Ice and Spazer enables you to use X Factor. So it's crucial that these guys do this in preparation for the eventual Dragon fight and some of the other enemies that get in your way. For instance, you will see them also facing, I believe, Croc. No, not Croc. One other mini boss. Oatsngoats is entering him now. Good old worm. Not exactly sure of his name, to be completely honest with you, chat, but let's go ahead and affectionately call him Twin Mold, as robitalion also goes into a similar fight. And now they're going to be grabbing their third and final energy tank for this run. Robitalion using his super missiles to make quick work of Twin Mold as well. Only mini boss you're actually going to see in this game. The other one, well, the other two rather, Crockermeyer kind of guards the way down to the grapple beam, and Slowgo, not exactly sure what the kind of grass mini boss's name is, but normally you have to beat him in order to actually get to power bombs. And Oatsngoats only getting a halfie here in the Coliseum. Let's see how he's able to handle the rest of this with that nice damage boosting so far. What does robitalion manage to make of this same area? And full halfie from robitalion. Beautiful to see. So gaining some time on Oatsngoats this time around as Oats enters that Dragon fight. Now, this is pretty well, until Mother Brain, of course, the last big spat of RNG. Depending on how Dragon decides to treat robitalion and Oats, this could swing very quickly in robitalion's favor. Dragon soon to spawn on both their screens. Nice Shine Spark for that initial bit of damage, and of course an X Factor. One thing that's not super obvious, unless you know to look for it, X Factors do use super bombs. So whenever you see these guys executing an X Factor, watch for their super bomb to reduce. And then Oats, of course, with that Shine Spark up to the corner to reduce some lag. And now they're going to be making their way into Orion. They've beaten all those mini bosses. Robitalion taking this opportunity to go ahead and turn back on his other beams. Not going to need X Factor again for a while. In fact, ever, actually, I believe, for the rest of the run. They're just going to be relying on a combination of supers and charge shots in order to kill Mother Brain. So pretty close race between them. That full halfie let Robitalion sneak up quite a bit on Oats. Looks like they're exactly a room behind, give or take. Maybe at most 7 seconds apart. So it's definitely going to come down to Mother Brain. What exactly is in this? But Robitalion taking a fall there, not a fall that he needed to, but executing the end of that room cleaner than Oats. It's going to be a close one. So now O's going to be collecting a few more missiles and supers here, as well as getting a couple of refills on some much needed items. Let's see if Robitalion opts to play it safely or just go ahead and risk a lot. Opting to play it pretty safe. Not a bad move at this point in this race. Now, my apologies. I forgot that that is not actually the room that leads to the super missile and dual missile upgrades from Meridia. There's another doorway in that same exact room that they exited from that leads you kind of into this sub area where you can find one missile upgrade really quickly, and then at the very end, super and a stand missile upgrade. So they're back to Criteria. Oats is going to be the first one to enter Torian. And you will see some jumping during the Golden 4 cutscene. That's actually our cheat prevention. Just to make sure that these guys aren't just pulling our legs by playing a task for us. And remember how earlier I said that these guys took missiles to kill? Once you get, I believe it's the Spazer, you can kill them with standard shots. Could also be the ice, but I'm pretty sure it's just the Spazer required for that. And now, just to point out, Oats has opted to not re-equip his ice and space just yet. Probably going to do it sometime soon, towards the end of this cutscene here. Robot joining him in the Golden 4, so Oats is just 2 of these statue destructions ahead at the moment. And chat pointing out, Twin Mold's name is actually Batwoon. Thank you so much, chat. Like I said, a bit new to commentating this game. Been learning a lot in a short amount of time, but chat's been definitely instrumental in speeding up that process, so I can't thank you enough for your patience in all of this. And so Oats going ahead and taking his elevator down to Torian, but first re-enabling his ice and spazer, Robot not needing to do so. So as soon as this cutscene is over, he's just going to be headed straight down in that elevator. So this is it. If Oats knows how slim his lead is at the moment, he's definitely feeling the pressure. And going ahead and letting a couple of Metroids latch onto him for easier kills there. Making short work of these Metroids on the way to the end of this game. These guys are really, really useful for various item farmings. So you can see here they've got 20 missiles. You need a minimum of 15 to finish with this route, 10 supers, and 5 powers. And in case you're wondering how exactly 20 missiles is enough to complete the game with, you're about to see once they get into Mother Brain. And now Oats entering that beautiful Super Metroid cutscene. Now it may just come down to this. Let's see how Oats executes Big Metroid Skip here. Could determine whether or not he's able to pull a victory in this. Executing very nicely. Robitalion gonna have a little bit of trouble matching that, but as chat's been saying so often, Robot's a god. If anyone's got the ability to clinch this, it's him. So having a bit of trouble with the big skip, but getting it nonetheless much, much faster than watching that cutscene of the Super Metroid sucking your life. Okay, and Oats with that first try skip through that pillar there. So that pillar is what saves you all of those missiles at the end. So all you need now is that 15 to be able to actually take care of the casing surrounding Mother Brain. Of course, those 10 supers. But unfortunately, if you end up running out of missiles to actually open up that tank, that trick actually soft locks you. Interesting. So now Oatsngoats entering phase 2 of Mother Brain. Easily one of the most difficult fights on the SNES. And so it's come down to this. Looks like Robitalion may have been able to get a couple more charges in there. I'm not entirely sure. Both handily avoiding everything Mother Brain's them. I mean, a lot of casual players out there probably just holding their heads in frustration. And looks like Mother Brain is about to be done in on Oates' side. Gonna have just a little bit more cutscene to watch, and then finally the third phase, which goes by pretty quickly. And so Oates just finishing off sub 40-10 there. Now they're purposely staying within the grasp of this rainbow beam, and this here is why exactly they needed 3 energy tanks. Without 3 energy tanks, that rainbow beam would have killed. But in this case, not a problem whatsoever. And just as that Mother Brain getting ready to fire the kill shot in Samus, the Super Metroid comes to your rescue. It wasn't actually a bad guy after all, despite wanting to suck all of that health from you. So now we're about to see that beautiful rainbow beam in the final phase, and then all that separates these guys from the very ending of this game is that final escape sequence. And so now, everybody get those Fs out in chat. Saddest anime deaths in history. Number 1 right here. The Super Metroid sacrificing itself for the space bounty hunter that killed every single other Metroid. Or she thought. There's beautiful Rock'em Sock'em robots from Oatsngoats. He knows where to shoot that rainbow beam where it counts. Robot about to be starting his own third phase. But Oats not leaving him a whole lot of room to catch up at this point. It's going to take a lot of mistakes on this escape for Robot to still have a chance here in the moment. But really can't call it until it's over, just like any other race. And now we got one last in-game timer on this escape sequence. Oats making short work of it, though. Nice shine spark up to the roof there. Beautiful wall jumps up, not letting any of the space pirates get in his way. It's obvious that this is a very well-rehearsed escape. It looks like he executed a moonfall as well down there to shave that cheeky half-second to second. Now, on casual runs of this game, that door that Oats just went through, you have access to that door from basically the beginning of the game, but it's always gray. And eventually you kind of just have to realize, you know what? I think this may be used in the escape. I'm just going to stop trying. So Oats taking a bit of a fall there. Fortunately, did not seem to be enough, though. But tightening that lead fairly substantially in terms of what it originally was. Overshooting the ship by a little bit, but finishing with a cool 43-35. Now let's see what they end up getting on Robit's side here. Oop. Having a bit of trouble getting on top of the ship, but a nice 43-51. So about 16 seconds apart from both of these guys. And let's see if we can get either of them or hopefully both in for a quick post-race interview. So let's see if we've got time for post interviews or if we need to go ahead and keep things moving on to the next race. After this, we've got a race between Rock Chalk and Triforce TK in SM64. Quick shout out to Vi.GG, the sponsor of this tournament, and the other two tournaments are SM64 70 Star and SMO Any Percent. Go check them out. Exclamation point bet in the chat. Keep in mind, though, you must be of legal betting age in your country of residence, and of course, betting must be legal in that country as well. So we got Oats in this call with us. Oats, how are you doing after that race?
I'm doing great, thanks.
So
it was definitely a close race. I had the stream open and I was sweating.
So. no doubt. Must have been feeling pretty nervous during Torian, huh?
Yeah. I was a little bit nervous because my Dragon, I was going for a spike suit, which is like a double frame perfect trick, and I messed it up twice, which lost me a lot of time, and I saw Robitalion got that. And it was a really close race at that point, but I luckily got really good drops in Torian, which allowed me to just not worry about grouping strats, and I could just kind of fly through Torian.
Now, I did notice, too, you seem to have a much better Fantoon than Robit, so you think that had anything to do also with this win today?
Yeah, I think so, because that's kind of where we differentiated, because I lost some time on missing the CWJ, and then I caught up the time because of Fantoon. But yeah, Fantoon is a huge one. It's really hard to optimize, but I've put hundreds and hundreds of hours into that fight, so I feel like that definitely gave me a little bit of an edge.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely shows too. Now, I did have to ask, were you just going for the standard halfie, or did something happen during that full halfie?
Oh, no, I just, a couple pixels too low was all, you gotta, if you're too high, you hit your head. If you're too low, you get what I got, which is just the normal halfie. So you have to find that nice, like, pixel range. And I just was unfortunately a little short, but that only loses about 5 to 8 seconds, so that's not a huge deal. What is a big deal, though, is all the farming I had to do before, because I wanted a really good, clean fight, which I got. And, but yeah, everything went really well. I got a 43. Just ready for my next race. Feeling good.
Awesome. And how are you feeling about? Let me pull up the bracket here so I can see who exactly you'll be facing for that next race.
It's Zoast, isn't it?
I believe so. How are you feeling about that race? Anything you're kind of a bit apprehensive about going into a race with him?
Yeah, pretty much like a lot of the safe strats that I did today, I won't do at all. So I'm pretty much either gonna die or I'm gonna win. So that's the way I feel about the race. Same with probably Zoast. He probably feels the same way. He's either gonna die or die trying, because we're both really close. We've raced together, and we're both really close runners when it comes to our races. So we'll see how that goes in the losers finals. So yeah.
And of course, one final question, just have to ask: do you think that Metroid Prime speedrunning that you've been doing recently has had a kind of a little bit of an impact, or have you
Yeah, for
been?
sure. I need to start practicing a little bit again before my races though. So probably I'll do that tonight in the next couple of days. So yeah.
Well, all right. Thanks so much for that post interview, and also just for the awesome race. I mean, great job out there.
Yep. Thank you for commentating.
Oh, thanks so much. And yeah, shout outs to Robit too. I mean, that was an awesome showing from him.
Yeah, it was great. It was great. So
And with that, we'll be going into a short intermission before that SM64 race. So stick around. Got a lot of races coming up for you tonight.